that is currently on. What's up? On DCL.curations. The past several years I've spent as a tech strategy consultant and business transformation consultant, and recently I left my job to pursue the metaverse and metaverse development education full time. So in terms of metaverses, I spend the majority of my time in Decentraland, building, creating experiences, and working with other groups, artists, and developers. And from a consulting perspective, I kind of consult across metaverse platforms. So that might include like Other Side, Big Time, Sandbox, Alluvium, Roblox, Meta, even though I hate Meta, but you name it, and that's kind of what I do. So today what we will be doing is going over some Decentraland stuff for everybody that is more familiar with Sandbox, including, what do you need to get into Decentraland, but then also once you're in Decentraland, how do you teleport around? How do you access the builder? What are different build constraints? For example, if you're creating wearables, you're going to have different limitations than if you're developing a building. And if you're developing a building on one parcel versus 2 or 10 or 100 parcels, you will have different limitations on how to do that as well. Yeah, Ozcom, I see you just unmuted.
Yep. Just to answer, yes, the audio is working. Can anyone confirm? Just write in the DCL AMA chat if some other people can hear what we're talking about. Small confirmation. It is working for fakers. Okay. So it's on him. Okay, cool. Anyway, sorry, didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, no worries. Is it working?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. Cool. So definitely want this to be an open chat. I've started working with Sandstorm, and really what our goal is to, cross-pollinate developers and users between these two major metaverses, being Sandbox and Decentraland. A little bit of my personal perspective here, but I often get asked, which metaverse platform is going to be the one that succeeds in the future? And I think that's a very kind of silly question to ask right now, because there are so few people in the metaverse just in general across all platforms when you compare it to the multiple billions of people that are just in the gaming industry globally alone. So saying that Sandbox or Decentraland or Roblox or Meta is going to be the one that succeeds, I think is kind of similar to saying, World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, EA Sports, and all these other games can't, simultaneously be multi-billion-dollar corporations. So I think it's, very good to kind of introduce users on other platforms to what's going on in the different spaces. And obviously with Sandstorm, the focus is on building and development. So just to get started in Decentraland, and again, if you have a question, please feel free to either post it in the DCL AMA or, just unmute and feel free to ask. But if you are trying to enter into Decentraland, the main thing that you're going to want off the bat is a MetaMask wallet. I believe that's the same entryway for Sandbox, but your MetaMask wallet and your MetaMask identity is essentially your Web3 identity. So when you go to OpenSea or any other Web3 dApp or platform, that is what's going to register your assets and kind of log you in. So once you have a MetaMask all set up, it's very simple to enter Decentraland. You just click on Decentraland homepage, or you can navigate directly to decentraland.org. And when you click Start Exploring, there will be two options. There is a desktop client that's currently available, and it's in beta testing. I typically just right now still explore via the web. but the desktop client is definitely available right now for Windows, and the last week I believe they released the desktop client for Mac OS, or Linux, I believe. I've already created my avatar, but when you first click start exploring, it'll prompt you with a page that we're about to see here. If you give it a second, it'll prompt you with something that looks like this, where you can now customize your avatar within the constraints of the platform. So you'll start off and there's basic apparel and basic things that you can change, and none of those assets are NFTs. But if you already have Decentraland NFT compatible assets, then under the collectibles section you'll be able to see those displayed. Then it'll ask you to create a name, register yourself, and accept to the terms and conditions, and then it will pop you into Genesis Plaza, which are the 0 coordinates for Decentraland, where everybody kind of pops in when they first get started. I think I saw Italia Fireson, looked like you went off mute and might have had a question. Just want to give you a chance to ask it if you did.
Hi guys, thanks.
Yeah, of course. Do you have a question?
Actually no, thanks.
Okay, no worries. So once you hop into Decentraland, it can be a little confusing to get oriented and figure out, exactly where to go. Genesis Plaza, again, is just the drop-in point, and you will see these 3D displays of different activities and events going on, but another way to access that without going to Genesis Plaza is just by clicking X on your keyboard. So X will open up your Explore page where you can see events that are up and coming, events that are currently trending, or if you click on places, it'll show you where the majority of people are right now. So one of the top places is always going to be the Wonder Mine or some of the poker lounges. The poker lounges are very, very popular right now. And then you can navigate, obviously there are hotkeys here like I, M, and P, but navigate through your backpack. You can open up the Decentraland map and you can directly teleport anywhere just by clicking on one of these tiles and then clicking jump in. Let's see. Why isn't it? There we go. Just like this. And then you can click jump in. If you know exactly where you want to go, you can also type in a command. But I want to go over the settings a little bit too, because a lot of people have performance issues in Decentraland depending on how powerful your PC is. So I personally am running everything on ultra settings with max scene rendering radius and everything maxed out. But if you are facing issues in Decentraland with it lagging or it taking a long time to load, two main things you want to do is one, just reducing your overall graphics quality, and then if that still doesn't work, reducing your scene load radius. And basically that just reduces the amount of scenes away from you, or parcels in this case, that will load while you're there. But I like to keep my stuff on max. Zumzi, I see you're unmuted. Do you have a question? No? All right. If not, then we can go over some of the places to navigate to in Decentraland, just to get a feeling of what's going on. So two popular things that are going on right now. You can see this individual has his Mountain Dew jetpack on. So Mountain Dew actually just entered into Decentraland, and they have an event going where you can get this 5-piece wearable set for free. And I wonder where that build is right now. The other scene that's currently huge right now is the Netflix event that is going on. Netflix just entered into Decentraland as well, and they have quests and activities that you can do on their property in order to get wearables for that as well.
Maybe you can get a bit more basic. What's like the main activities people do in Decentraland? What are the biggest games or whatever you can play? Maybe you can go more into that.
Yeah, of course. So there are some that are play to earn, and then there are some that are just play for fun. So Quiz Zone is going on right now, and the Quiz Zone is exactly what it sounds like. There are, and we can hop in there. I don't think I'll be able to join because I'm joining a little bit late, but this is hosted by Dapcraft, one of the main development groups in Decentraland, and every couple of weeks they host something called the Quiz Zone, and you enter and then it goes off asking a bunch of questions. So you'll see they're currently on question 22, and you're able to respond to the questions just by going to these different tiles, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then if you get it correct, you get points, and there's a leaderboard, and at the end of the competitions, the prizes are either, some sort of cash prize, or they're wearable prizes, or, if it's a really big competition, could even be something like a land prize. So when the Quiz Zone is running, the Quiz Zone is definitely a popular activity for people to stop by and participate in. It's just kind of, fun. There are some perks, and there's leaderboards that run throughout the entire season that they're hosting the quizzes. One of the areas that is kind of considered like the Decentraland watering hole, I would say, is, if this will load, maybe I need to reduce I'm streaming and I'm recording right now, so it might be a little slow for me. But if we can go over to the Wonder Mine. Come
on. Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, of course. Go for it.
Sorry for my English. I don't speak English. I have a stupid question. The places are on lands, right?
Yeah, like they're on land.
Okay.
Is that what you said?
Yes, I think that was your question.
Yes. So the way that it works is when you click M on the map, every single one of these little squares is what we call a parcel. And the dark gray areas, these are privately owned land. And people trade these on the secondary market, either through OpenSea or through the Decentraland marketplace. So I'll open up the marketplace really quick, and while that loads, I'll continue talking through the different colorings. The lighter gray, these are all roads that are, built into Decentraland. So nobody can purchase these, nobody can build on these. That's just kind of the way the structure is laid up. The different plazas are foundation run plazas. So there's different areas across Decentraland with kind of different activities and whatnot. And this is run by the foundation. And then every single blue area is called a district. And these districts were set up at the very beginning. Up top, you have what is kind of the gambling district. Across it, you have Festival Land. So this is where the Metaverse Music Festival was hosted, which actually had like Deadmau5, Paris Hilton, and Alice in Wonderland performing live. Here is a district for Decentraland University, so a lot of educational stuff is going in there. But yes, every single parcel is a piece of land, and depending on whether or not it's in a district, there might be certain restrictions about how you go about developing within a district. But if you were purchasing and developing on private land, then that land is an NFT that you own, and whatever you are capable of developing and deploying on that land, you are allowed to do.
Right. Thank you. Sorry for my English.
No worries. So if we look at the marketplace, like I was mentioning, there is a OpenSea, which people are very familiar with, where you could also purchase Decentraland land just by typing in Decentraland, and then it'll pop up a couple of different categories. So you would just want straight up Decentraland. And on here, it's sold in ETH or mana. So we can see the floor price for a single parcel right now is just over 2 ETH. On the Decentraland marketplace, everything is sold in mana and everything is sold in Polygon mana, actually. So it's on the Matic mainnet. And if we scroll down, we can look at the parcels and estates as well. And all of these light blue areas are parcels that people are currently selling. So the land in Decentraland is all sold out, and all of the sales that are currently happening are secondary sales compared to, you know, the primary initial land release. So if you wanted to buy a big chunk of land, this one is, you know, $300,000, for example. But we will get into a little bit more about how to develop that land in a quick second. Let's see if I can teleport out now. Oh, also, yeah, if you ever have any questions about controls, you can just click C, and C on your keyboard when you're in game will pop up all of the controls for you. But we are going to hop back to places. And we are
How does it work with districts? Who owns them? Who buys them?
Yeah, so every district was pre-planned during the initial release of Decentraland land. So basically the way that it worked is there were no districts, but a bunch of people came together and they bought a bunch of land, and people developed kind of these plans for districts, and that set aside like what is this kind of vibe and feel going to be like. So there's a fashion district, for example, and that's where people host the Metaverse Fashion Week, and they're trying to bring in a lot of fashion brands there. And anybody who is buying land during the initial release, they could view all of these different district plans that people had proposed, and you could choose to contribute your land to that district idea. And that's how the size of the districts came to be. So a bunch of people came up with a bunch of different plans. People that had purchased land contributed that land to those districts, and those districts are now in place, you know, based off of the amount of contributions that initially happened a few years ago. Was that?
Does anyone have a question regarding land, regarding experiences, regarding what we just saw? And then I think we can go towards the building side of things. So how to create assets, how to, you know, the more technical stuff.
Is there the ability to portal from one land to another land on one side of the map to the other side of the map?
Yes. So, I mean, you can just teleport inherently. So, you know, wherever I decide to click right now, I can just click and I can, it's lagging a little bit, but I can just click and then I can choose to jump in and it will teleport me there. But if you mean, can you actually put a portal on your land that teleports you somewhere else? Yes, you can also do that. So maybe you work with other groups in Decentraland, and you want to be able to have a direct connection between your building and somebody else's building on the other side of the map, you can put in a portal that just teleports people to that other location, assuming that the other location has a receiving portal there. So you couldn't just, you know, go willy-nilly putting in portals. I don't think. There has to be the connections on both sides, but definitely. So that was one way to teleport there, just clicking on the map. And then if you were to type in /go-to, you can also type in direct coordinates of where you want to go, and that'll automatically teleport you. I actually just removed the main build we have from here right now because we're working on some construction. But for example, if I wanted to put a 3D teleporter in here, somebody would be able to come up to it, click on it, and then it would take them wherever I wanted to go.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. You know, I do want to look at some of the build stuff, but in terms of just getting into Decentraland, walking around Decentraland, and, you know, the experiences that are available, are there any questions prior to moving on to actual, you know, building?
So I think we have 2 questions left in the chat. So one is, Sandstorm will support voxel builders for learning how to make assets for Decentraland. Maybe some streams of how to make assets. So just to reply this in a broad way, we are actively talking with Blender communities and people who are using Blender for their living. And so that's definitely something we are considering, but we'll give you more information about this in the future. But yeah, that's something we're looking into. And the second question is, what is the interface like for landowners when they're developing the land? I think that's something you will explain just after.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one that I can explain right now, actually. So for example, here I own 18 parcels. So I own a 4x4 that's right here, and then I own these 2 parcels over here. So once I own those are NFTs that you can see in your wallet. But when you actually want to deploy something, there's 2 ways that you can deploy it. And well, I guess there's 2 ways that you can create, and then also 2 ways that you can deploy. So I'm going to exit out of this just so it doesn't bog down my computer while I show you this. But if you go to Decentraland and you just simply log into the builder, even if you don't own any land, you can create new scenes, and you can set the limit on, how large you want that scene to be, taking into consideration the fact that every parcel or piece of land is 16 by 16 meters in Decentraland. And then if you have 1 parcel, the max build height is 20 meters. But for every additional parcel you have that is connected, that actually increases the amount of height that you have to build in. It increases your poly count limit or try limit. So every parcel has a 10,000 count try limit. But if we want to just, for example, create a 1x1 parcel that you want to test out, and this is, regardless of whether or not you own land, it will just deploy a random 1x1, and then you can go through and you can use what is currently available in the builder. Etheria, there we go. So there's these glossy Ethereum tiles, for example. I'll put that down as the floor. Maybe I want to put a video screen in. So anything that has a lightning bolt on the bottom right is actually a smart object. So it's not just going to pop in and not have any sort of functionality. You can actually pop it in, and then you can put in a channel where you can stream live content, or you can post, pre-recorded content or videos or images that will be hosted here as well. And you can easily move it around, or, rotate it, or scale it even, and make it as big or as small as you want based off of the size of your scene. Let's see.
So how does that work? Would you just put the URL link of the video in the asset and then it just plays automatically?
So that depends on which one you're using. This is actually a video stream screen. So I need the channel URL. So for this, I would put in
For instance, you can take our stream right now and put it there.
If you have a .m3u8 link, I could put that in here, yes. So
I don't know what kind of link that is.
It's it would look like, 1 second, let me open up chat really quick and I'll grab it. It would look like this. So it's I'm streaming from OBS, right? So it's a and I have my own server. So I've got a specific stream ending in .m3u8, and I can put that in. And then, when I run my OBS in streaming format, this stream would pop out on the other end. But there are also other things here, like just a billboard screen that doesn't play videos. So if you were to put something like that in, it'll just take your image URL. And
okay,
again,
so for the stream, it should come from the source. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, so I would stream, for example, through my OBS,
Yeah, okay.
and then in my OBS settings, I have a stream output going to a specific server, and this is the RTMP. But then I take the M3U8 to plug it into the screen and basically route what I'm streaming through to Decentraland at that point. It's a little complex for streaming, but it's not that bad once you get it all done and set up. But again, this is the builder, which is the most basic way to build in Decentraland. What's good about it is that it does come pre-populated with a lot of the available assets from Decentraland that you can use. Some of them you can interact with, like push buttons or elevators, or I believe you had mentioned a teleporter earlier. So here is an example of a pre-built teleport pad. So if you own some land, you want to be able to teleport to a different location, you can just drop this in, say where you want people to teleport to on the other end, and then when you deploy this, people can come up, click on it, and it takes them wherever they want to go, or wherever you decide that they go, rather. And then additionally, you are able to download these scene files and export them and import them into Blender so that you can play around with them additionally. But I will show you what typically happens. And this is because there are, like I said, development constraints within Decentraland and the scene sizes, and the builder items are not very efficient just when it comes to poly count in the way that it's built. And for example, like if you were to put a wall in, right, this wall actually is not very effective because just the way that they've built it, you'll max out try counts very quickly if you were using some of these assets, especially like the ones with zigzags, instead of these actually being a texture on top of some file. I believe this adds increased poly counts because of the way that they've developed the ridges, like you can see. So for developers in Decentraland that are very skilled and trying to create very unique experiences, they all do their developments in Blender. And like I had previously mentioned, a parcel starts off as 16 by 16 meters. So if you add just a blank plane to Blender, that's actually a 2 by 2 meter plane. You can size it by 8, and you get your 16 by 16 meter plane. And then if you wanted to, say, duplicate it and, I don't know, rotate it on the y-axis by 90 degrees, and then we'll raise that up and move this back, and we'll go into the stats here, and we'll make the Z, why isn't that scale? Here we go. No, it's not working either. I need to be in edit mode. Edit to, we'll just grab this and we'll pull this up. What is that at? What is this height? I forget where I find the height, but this is around where your build structure would be for a one parcel, and this is kind of how I lay all of my stuff out. So now if I go ahead and let's delete this, and I go ahead and I import or open up one of my recent files, you can see what we are currently working on. So this is the build that'll be deployed for our event tomorrow, and the majority of this is all 3D modeled. And so, well, everything in here has been 3D modeled. You also have to add colliders. For those of you that don't know what colliders are, that's what makes sure people don't jump out or walk through walls. So basically everything has an additional layer of colliders. So this is what the visual piece is in terms of the third floor balcony. And then we have a collider on top of that. And if we look at the face orientation through the statistics here, or through the geometry here, you can see that the red and the blue kind of dictates where people walk through and where people don't. So on the bottom floor here, the seating looking at the TV is red on the back. So if people walk through the back of it, they can walk directly through the object. But if they are coming up through the front, they can't walk through the object because there are colliders on the front. I should probably actually make that just an entirely solid object, but that's kind of beside the point right now. So the majority of development happens in the Blender, and you can also import wearable models as well. So if wearable creation is something that you are interested in, Decentraland has very extensive documents on how to actually go about creating wearables in Decentraland. And then at the very bottom, they even have wearable reference models that you can download with sample textures and the sample base mesh, which is most important, along with the rigging. So I believe, let's see if I go ahead, I'm going to import a GLTF file from my desktop. DCL.curations. We're going to go with our base female. And there you see a base female was just put in. So these are the base dimensions for the female avatar. So if you're trying to develop wearables instead of develop a building, Decentraland has the base avatars readily available so that you can begin developing. And then once you're done, whether you're developing a building or if you're developing a wearable, you are just going to export it in GLTF format. And when you go back to the Decentraland builder, you can actually now import these assets as GLTF. So you would say add a new asset pack. You're going to browse through your stuff. Let's see, we'll go to DCL.curations, we'll import the base female, import asset, create asset pack. Since it was in GLTF, it automatically uploads, and now I can drop that into the scene. So obviously I didn't change anything with this avatar, but you could have done whatever you wanted with it, and then you can easily drop it in here. And compared to using the builder for walls and stuff like that, it's much more efficient in terms of triangle count, materials, and everything like that. It's also important to note that on the bottom left, you will see the build constraints for a 1x1 piece of land. And if you were to, deploy a 2x2, 3x3, whatever it might be, 1x17, it will give you these constraints. Now, when deploying through Builder, it's as simple as clicking Publish. I don't have land on this wallet, so let me change wallets really quick. Go to this one. So if you wanted to see what it looks like to deploy land, you'd open this in Editor, whatever you're currently building, and then you would click Publish. You can publish to the scene pool, which means you're making it basically publicly available for anybody to download and use, or you can publish it to your land. And then when you zoom out, this is basically the map of Decentraland, and it shows you what you currently own and where you currently can deploy. So for a scene this size, even though I own those 2 up there and I own these 16, I can deploy this through these 16 right here. And that's what it looks like if you own land and you're trying to deploy. Additionally, you don't actually have to own land, because the way the land is built in is that you can actually be delegated operator rights as well. So I have...
So wait. So sorry,
this question.
Before we go further into this, 987 had the last question about Blender.
Mm-hmm.
Saying obviously colliders are one thing, but what other things might be unique for your average Blender user starting to develop for DCL?
Okay, yeah, great question. I would say that comes down to poly count, height limits, and things like that. So, for example, on a 1x1, you have a max build height of 20 meters. I believe this is currently around 35 meters. So you have to be aware of that constraint, right? then the poly count also, because if you are trying to add a ton of assets, like say you want chandeliers and you want couches and colliders themselves, just double the poly count, unless you're building your colliders more efficiently than you're building your build. Those are the things that you want to be aware of in terms of deploying. Baking textures can often help as well. But outside of that, you've got your simple objects. Let me turn off this face orientation. You have different materials that you can replace. If you're trying to really texture something well, you can open up your UV editor. Let me pull this back over a little bit. And when you're in edit mode, you will see how the texture is currently lined up and how you want to mess with it. I don't know why that one looks so weird. There we go. So here's what my bookshelf texturing looks like. And sometimes you will want to manually texture, but I would say oftentimes it is more beneficial just to simply go to UV unwrap faces and either unwrap or smart UV project. But those materials are put in through the materials section. For the colliders, you got to strip away your materials. That'll just bog down your scene more and the colliders won't act properly. But I guess you could add animations in Blender as well to the main scene, but typical Blender rules apply as long as you're developing within the scene constraints of Decentraland, I would say.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure, because you went very fast about all those different topics and you went very technical very quickly. It's fine. I just want to make sure that everybody here understood everything until now. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you want re-explanations on specific topics, if you want like a step-by-step, slower approach to explain what you would need to do exactly and how the things work, let us know as well. Just maybe write in the chat, either in the voice chat or in the DCL AMA if you're fine until now. A little yes or something, so we know.
I mean, Blender can be very complicated, just because there's so much that you can do with Blender. Physics comes into play. The amount of I should say one of the things to take into consideration is that you're not typically rendering stuff. You're not going to be developing these hyper realistic scenes that take 2 days to render. I build out a model file, export it as GLTF, head back over to the builder, hop in a scene, and when I open it in editor, you can add your asset pack as a GLTF or a zip file if you have one. So you're not going to get into the complexities and interworkings of Blender all day, but that's kind of as simple as the workflow gets. Build it in Blender, export as GLB or GLTF, and then upload to the DCL builder for deployment.
Okay, perfect. And what are the constraints, you would say, in Decentraland itself? Any specific things people need to be wary of?
Yes. So like right now, let's go to builder scene limitations. Here we go. So this is really the most important thing for developing in scenes. When you are developing experiences, you could easily go over your try count, but you could also more likely blow your file size. So if you're trying to put in like gamified experiences and whatnot, you want to make sure that you're doing it really in the most efficient way possible so that you're not blowing the scope of, what your scene is capable of doing. If you're deploying through Builder, you can't exceed scene limitations at all. It just will not let you deploy. But an alternate option is deploying via the SDK. Now this gets a little bit more complex, but if you are familiar with coding, and let me go to this right now. You can go to the Getting Started section for Decentraland and the SDK. Really, all it's going to do is, install the Decentraland assets and connections, and then you have these.
Okay, so wait. Before you go on this topic, I just want to clarify. In Decentraland, there are 3 levels of complexity you can put in an asset. You have the basic builder mode, which you just saw. So like the files that are just included in Decentraland that you can take on the marketplace, or very simple stuff you can build. Then you can do on Blender. So basically you are 3D modeling stuff from scratch, and then you can import it onto your land. And you have then the 3rd level, which is called smart assets, which is the most complicated thing you can do. And this requires coding skills. And it's basically what you will explain just after, but it's basically implementing smart mechanics or more complex stuff inside an asset, so it has some interactions. For instance, if you are creating headphones that are playing music, that would be a smart asset, for instance.
Yes. And smart assets and wearables are a little bit different than smart assets when you build them in scenes. Smart wearables are something that Decentraland is currently working on. And the issue that they're facing there is creating the portable experiences. So if you own land, you can code whatever you want in there. I could code it so that every time somebody walks onto land, they turn into a pickle with a jetpack and they can fly around. But when they leave that land, they turn back into their avatar and they don't have a jetpack. So that's a non-portable experience. Portable experience gets into your coded wearables, which is something that is currently being tested by Decentraland. But you can code in experiences for your land fairly easily. So here's an example of the shell of the building we were just looking at. We had created some other Blender assets like the couches and everything. But if I want to add some smart objects, I'm going to just navigate to my desktop. I'll navigate to the folder that it's in, and then I'll navigate to, I think it's 23 CS, and then I can just type in DCL start. And what this is going to do is this is going to deploy a test environment for me where I can test it out. And what you're able to do in the SDK in terms of putting in, teleporters or like shooting experiences, or even like NPCs that people can interact with and talk to. You're going to be doing all that for the most part through code. So right now, we just deployed this test environment via the SDK, and some things that you'll see that are kind of unique here that we couldn't do in Blender is that right now my character is dancing, right? And I'm not making them dance. But if I walk over here, my character is no longer dancing. So one of the things that we have coded into the scene is that under the screen, there is an automated dance floor that forces every avatar to dance. Something else that we have in is this custom teleporter. So if you hold F while you're here, you will start to float up, or at least you should. Maybe I pulled from the wrong file. Oh no, there I go. I'm going kind of slow. But you start floating up, and then we have custom portals that have been put in as well that take you to other areas that you could otherwise not access. And that portal just teleports you to different areas, and we're working on the gamification of things through portaled experiences. You can also add in custom links. So we have, Sandstorm's Twitter here for everybody to go and check out during the event. And we actually have VIP access to another Sandstorm asset in the sky. So if you own certain NFT wearables and you go up to this portal, you would actually be airdropped into a VIP viewing room. But you can see I'm on a test character right now, and I don't own the assets that give me VIP access, so I cannot access the VIP space. All of those are
on that
things-
front, that's maybe a very good transition. What
Yeah.
are NFTs? What aren't NFTs? How does this work? What's being made with the files? How can we, make sure people are protected with their assets? How does this all works?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, wearables are the main thing that is developed as NFTs in Decentraland. So if you want to release a wearable, and let me just exit out of the builder and go back to Decentraland really quick. The wearables, let's see, go to builder. So under builder, we were previously looking at scenes, and this is where you would do your scene development. But if you go over to collections, this is where you actually upload and publish your wearables. So if I switch to my other account, I should have some here. There we go. And again, these wearables were developed in Blender, and then similar to how I uploaded the land scene, you drag and drop your GLTF file into the Decentraland builder for your wearable collections, and then when you go into it, you'll actually need to go through these different categories to determine, where it gets placed and if it hides anything. So if we equip this hat, I have it hiding the hair of this avatar. But if I take off that, the hair should come through the hat, I think. Yeah. So the hair now comes through the hat. So you have to develop the wearable, but then when you upload it into Decentraland, you also need to make sure that what you are, the slot that you're assigning it to and the things that it covers up are accurate. And then once you are happy with the way that your wearables look, you will actually go ahead and publish those. And when you publish a set of wearables, I believe it costs $150 per item. And once that gets pushed through, there's a wearable review committee that checks out all of the wearables, makes sure that there are no clipping issues, that you haven't exceeded, X, Y, and Z constraints, and that it's not going to bog down other individuals' experiences in Decentraland, and they get published, and then these become NFTs, right? So unless it's an NFT, you can't wear it. That's kind of not true, because they did just recently introduce linked wearables. So if you check out linked wearables, these are actually all collections that have integrated with Decentraland without the need of making it an NFT. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I thought somebody had a question. But 99% of wearables are all NFTs. So everything that you're seeing, everything that you're seeing.
I also feel like it was a.
Sorry, is somebody?
Yeah, it's
Why-
wait 1 second. Wait, let me mute him.
Okay.
Okay, it's fine.
So all of these wearables are NFTs, and that's just the way that the system works right now. But if you're developing for your own land, I mean, you could develop a 3D model in Blender, and then you could choose to say, upload this to OpenSea and make it an NFT that you sell. And then somebody could purchase that and download the model and deploy that on their land. But the majority of buildings are actually not NFTs. The land itself is an NFT, but the majority of the buildings that are on land aren't NFTs and are just things that are developed locally and then deployed to your scene. Are there any
awesome.
questions
But
on
again,
that?
to do this, you need to own land. And if you own land, you can port whatever you want on there.
Right. But even if you don't own land, you can still go into the test environments.
Right.
And whether that's through the SDK or the builder, and you can still play around with deploying. And, you know, instead
That's great.
of...
So that means that anyone here could, for instance, do some random 3D assets and go on Decentraland, open up the builder with the test land, and basically deploy anything they want to just test out the builder, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. Oh, by the way, maybe I can ask a more specific question because I saw very recently, I don't know where I saw it, I think on a stream or something. I saw someone who was playing a mini golf game.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, in that kind of example of cool experiences you can do, how do you do them? Like, what's the process? Maybe you can give us more insights on this. Like, how difficult is it to create such an experience realistically?
So there's something called, let me go to scene examples, physics, game mechanics. Let's go to game mechanics. So Decentraland has something called the Awesome Repository. And in this repository are a bunch of experiences that have been created. So if you're looking to develop a game in Decentraland and you're not quite sure how to animate NPCs or how to have, you know, a projectile object travel from one end to the other, you can go through this and you can download all of these assets and you can see, you know, how does this work? And these you can upload directly to Decentraland and test for yourself. So for anybody looking to create, you know, unique experiences, I would definitely say that this is, you know, an amazing repository to go through to figure out how the interactions and the code works. And then it's just a matter of applying these different things to what you're trying to do. So we are teleporting right now to the golf craft environment, and you can see here that not only have they deployed a unique building on their scene, but they have also coded in a custom UI that shows up. And then when you go over to play and you want to start playing, they actually have this environment layered. So you'll notice on the land, I'm actually still in the same location, but they have essentially used an engine that duplicates the scene and teleports you to another location. And now you can go ahead and play mini golf. So they have taken it a step further and they've actually...
That's so cool.
Yeah, and so...
that's so cool.
The way that they have this working right now, and actually I don't know how to teleport out without the time running up, so I'm just going to refresh. But the way that Golfcraft is set it up is they've attached and integrated your gameplay to that UI and rewards system. So the more you play, the more tournaments you participate in, and the higher you score in those tournaments rewards you with points and tickets, and then you can trade those tickets in for boosts that give you, you know, higher rewards while you're in a tournament, or you can even trade those in for NFT wearables that you can upgrade and that also give in-game benefits and stuff like that. For example, here, I've just got a level 1 club, but based off of your gameplay and the assets you have, you can go ahead and you can upgrade your club. And then I believe I might need to go upstairs for the wearables. Second floor. Is it on the 4th floor? Might be on the 4th floor. Maybe it's on the 3rd floor. But yeah, you know, the point is, if you want to create a game, there's an awesome repository that gives you a bunch of the code to make certain things possible, such as shooting and having certain targets recognized by the platform. And then you can leverage that to develop your own unique experience. And you can even tie completion of certain tasks or performance on certain tasks to a reward system that actually allows people to trade in these rewards for other objects like NFTs or just in-game centralized items that give in-game perks.
Yeah, that's great. So that means that even builders who can't code can use all those mechanics that have been published for anyone to use and use them in their own little games.
Yeah. Yep.
That's super cool. Is there anything else you want to cover? I think maybe we can open up for questions now. I know it was very dense and we went over a lot in an hour. This has been recorded, guys, so we'll share you the VOD later on if you want to rewatch it or review specific eras. This will be available for you guys. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can write in chat right now or demute and ask any question out loud. He'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Ask away.
Yeah, go ahead. Hit us with questions. Even simple question, it doesn't matter. We want to help you guys out and understand what this is about. So very cool. And maybe you can explain your role in Decentraland. I think you didn't introduce yourself.
Yeah, I did a brief one early on, but so I'm DCL.curations. I recently this year went full time in the Metaverse, and I operate in two main areas. I operate with traditional organizations, helping train them, create onboarding workshops, and developing entry strategies to the Metaverse based off of client needs. But then I also work with what I call born in the Metaverse companies to curate and develop unique experiences. So one of those unique experiences, for example, is the Apollo 11 moon landing that I worked with Dapcraft and another group on. And we had somebody come to us who designs in real life wearables. Well, I guess they're just apparel, in real life clothing for NASA, SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic. And they had previously created something specifically for the Apollo 11 50th the Apollo 11 moon landing 50th anniversary, and they wanted to recreate that experience in Decentraland. And if I remember the coordinates properly, somebody posted about it not too long ago. I'll have to find the coordinates, but somewhere in Decentraland, you can actually see a live moon landing or a recreation of that. There were people involved from, there were ex-Epic game developers, and they actually created the Apollo 11 space suit from scratch, along with the Apollo 11 moon lander. They used depth charts of the actual moon to recreate the specific surface area of the moon where it landed, and then they
that's impressive.
Yeah, and then they synced up the experience to the live audio of the moon landing, so that when you go there, it's a 5-minute experience. You hear all the audio and you see the people stepping off for the very first time, saying, one small step for man, one large step for mankind, stuff like that.
That's super cool, dude. I see a question by 987A again. Seems like he's very interested. His question is, so the repository shows examples of things and lets you pick them apart. Does it go anywhere as far as explaining code, or where would one go to get into code for it?
So those assets, you can download 3D assets, but you can also download the code behind it, and those are in game.ts files. So if I just open up a game.ts file right now really quick, give me a second.
Yeah, maybe run him through the process of like taking code, putting it into an asset,
Right.
if you
So
can.
let's see. So you would download the zip file, really, of what you want. So let's just look at an experience. Let's do a narc patrolling. That sounds kind of neat. Then we'll download it as a zip file. We'll just save it to the desktop. Take this, we'll extract it. And then we will open it up and you will see these different files here. So under the SRC file, you'll see a game.ts file, which you can open with Visual Studio Code. And then in that Visual Studio Code, you will see all of the lines of code that are in there that make what is happening in that scene happen. So right off the bat, without manipulating any of this, you could simply deploy this entire scene, right? But if you wanted to take that scene and look at the code and kind of pick it apart and see what's making it happen, you can go through here and actually see what's happening. So for example, let's see, adding a walk animation, right? So this narc that we just downloaded is a patrolling narc that's meant to look intimidating if you're building say like a temple that's being invaded or something like that. And this is the code that you would use to add in the walk animation and then the actual walk system that is happening as well. So you would be able to copy and paste this and then just pop in like your own asset file replacing the narc, for example. Was that helpful, 9A, 7A?
We're getting deep in here.
In general, it's like JSON script, I believe, and it's actually TypeScript, I think, which is like a subset of JSON, but it's fairly intuitive coding wise in terms of understanding what's happening here. But if you have those zip files, like we saw in the builder, you can upload GLTF, GLB, or zip files. So you would be able to take that file and drop it directly into the builder to deploy without messing with any sort of code, even though the code has already been programmed in. And that's what we would call kind of a smart item. So people can take 3D models, they can turn them into smart items that have stuff coded in and then export it as a zip so that somebody who doesn't know how to code can then take that zip file, upload it to the builder, and deploy it to their land without needing to use code.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really like this feature. And I'd hope that this would exist as well for Sandbox, but a bit early for this, I think. Okay, so any other questions? I think we'll be closing out this little session soon. I hope you guys liked it.
Yeah, and we've got an event going on tomorrow, don't forget.
Yeah.
With Sandstorm in Decentraland. They were just approved for a $120,000 grant, which is going to be used as reward money for Decentraland build competitions. So, I'm very excited to host Sandstorm and show off the new build that we've been working on at the same time, and get these Decentraland build competitions launched. And definitely hope to have a lot of these sandbox artists and builders cross over into Decentraland and start exploring what they can make possible there.
100%. And so just so you guys, I mean, we're between us now here. Just so you guys know approximately the time frame. So for Decentraland contests, we'll also do similar to Sandbox. We'll do 2 contests a month. And at first, I think we'll run both simultaneously. And over time, we'll see what we can do. Maybe combine contests, do one asset each on each metaverse would be pretty cool ideas, I think. Just stuff we can experiment with. So this will start very, very soon. I think we'll start with contests in August. So get ready. And if you want to just experience the first Sandstorm on Decentraland experience, you can come tomorrow on the stream. I'm not sure at what hour it is.
It starts at 5:30 p.m. CST, which I believe is 10:30 p.m. UTC. It's going to kick off with a live DJ performance, and then we'll go into our live stream with the Sandstorm team. And I also, if anybody is looking to win some NFTs, I just posted the latest giveaway link in this voice chat thread.
I'll put it in the giveaway channel.
Okay, perfect.
And tag everyone. Yeah, I'll do it just after the thing. So just closing note. Great. Thank you very much, DCL.curations, for this awesome presentation. I think it was very in-depth and very helpful. I hope you guys learned something today. And if you guys are interested, we can do that again in the future. For Sandstorm, like I said, we'll have the contest that will be starting soon. So definitely get, if you want to participate, get used to Decentraland, get used to this entire thing. Go on the world, experience this new metaverse and stuff. We'll run events there. We'll do a lot of fun stuff in the future. And on the Blender side of things, like I said earlier, we are actively looking into Blender communities and basically getting in touch with educators or people that can teach you guys this stuff. So whether it will be giving out some services or courses to our community for free, or whether it be a live instructor that will come on and do presentations, it's not clear yet, but that's definitely something we are exploring right now. And I'll have a couple of calls next week to go further on that front. So that a lot of exciting things.
Just on that note right there, Cyclopa and I are actually, once this deployment is done, we are going to be developing a Blender educational series. So if there are specific things that this community is interested in seeing in Blender, more than happy to include that in the series we're developing.
That's perfect. Yeah, let's do that 100%, and we can also publish your videos or whatever you do, whatever platform you're using, and push that as well. Very happy to help. So a lot of cool stuff happening, and thanks again, DCL.curations. Thanks everybody who attended. I know I spammed your DMs, but
yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,